Hey guys, Mike here. So it will not be an understatement to say we have an enormous week coming up, not just with earnings, but plenty of stuff on the economic horizon. A lot of events taking place this week, which could absolutely shift markets in many different directions. But I'm telling you, this has a chance to be one of the most volatile weeks of the year for sure. And I'm actually going to do this video in reverse, like I normally put earnings, economic data, events at the end. I'm going to bring them to the front to show you what I'm talking about. And the market absolutely has a chance to just rocket up if it wants this year. And the reason why, when we look at these earnings, I'm going to show you why, and then we'll go into something, a few charts as well. But when you look at this, these are what's going on with earnings. I mean, it's loaded and everything. Again, you have SoFi in the morning. You also have one of the most hottest stocks out there right there. You can see Super Micro as well. And then on Tuesday, obviously UPS, GM, JetBlue, and then there's Microsoft, AMD, and Google, right? We won't forget Starbucks. Wednesday, Boeing, which had all kinds of trouble, MasterCard, and then Qualcomm in the afternoon on Wednesday with a bunch of others. But the big day is going to be Thursday as well. As you can see, a lot of travel stocks in here. Peloton, I still can't believe is even in business, but it's still going. But then look at it. Apple, Amazon, Meta after the bell, and then another oil company in Exxon, and then Chevron coming in on Friday. But the reason why the market either has a chance to go up significantly or down significantly is because of those earnings. You have 6 companies that make up 25% of S&P reporting just this week. And when you look at this, you can see Microsoft obviously keeps setting new all-time highs. Apple is not back to its just previous all-time high it set, a month ago. Google set new all-time highs last week. Meta set all-time new highs last week. Amazon still got some room up to the upside, and AMD keeps setting new all-time highs like every other day. And so Amazon's got the most room to run if it has good earnings. But it's going to be interesting to see how the market does this, right? Because when you're setting an all-time high and you're going through, if you're moving up into earnings, you really got to report good earnings, right? So 25% S&P to do that. And everything goes well, it can rocket up. If everything goes bad, well, obviously you can get a nice move down. Now, when it comes to economic data, it is absolutely loaded, okay? Monday, Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index, that's after the bell. Another thing about this is when I say it can be a most volatile week is because a lot of this stuff comes out after the bell, okay? Tuesday, again, it's not a day where there's not a lot of stuff going on, but you'll have Redbook, you have S&P Case-Shiller home price month over month, year over year, CB consumer confidence, JOLTS job openings, JOLTS job quits, Dallas Fed Services Index, Dallas Fed Services Revenues Index. Then we move on to Wednesday, which is going to be the big day, the 31st right there. And boy, oh boy, a lot of mortgage data, which will take the back burner. But then you're going to have ADP employment change, Treasury refunding announcement. That's going to be a big one. This is where they're literally going to come out and say, okay, this is how we're going to finance a debt. This is the amount we're going to issue. This is how we're going to issue it, things like that. And so we'll see how the bond market reacts, which is how the stock market is going to react to it as well. And I can't really understate. I think that's really is going to be a big event, right? But then look at what else you got going on. Chicago PMI, a lot of crude inventory stuff, which again, I think I'll take a back burner to a lot of this. But then you got the Fed interest rate decision, which we know they'll probably just stay where they're at. And then the Fed press conference on the same day as you have the Treasury announcement, okay? Then Thursday, a lot of jobless data coming out, non-farm payrolls, ISM manufacturing, S&P Global manufacturing. And then on Friday, here comes the earnings for us, the unemployment rate, the participation rate, and then you'll have Michigan consumer sentiment as well. So this is another loaded day. So every day is loaded, and a lot of stuff happens after the bell opens. Now, another announcement that's probably going to come out this week or get a lot of headlines which could affect semiconductors is this right here. And guys, before we continue, if you could please hit that like button, that little thumbs up down there, helps people find the video, helps out the channel. And if you like down-to-earth content, talking about the financial markets, don't try to talk over your head, then think about subscribing. And it's going to be the U.S. announcing big grants for all these chip plants by the end of March. So we'll see, all these headlines keep coming out this week as well on this and what companies going to be. So this could be another thing to push up, and maybe Intel recovers on this. We'll see, because they usually have a lot of government backing and stuff, and they obviously got clobbered last week. And so this could absolutely start pushing those stocks back up, or it could be what? a sell the news event, right? So that's something we're going to have to pay attention to. And you can see with AMD, obviously this thing was following that trend line. Now it just went parabolic and stuff, sold off because of Intel. Maybe we finally start to see it come back down, maybe test this level, eventually come back down, test that trend line. I think the 50 will move up eventually and start coinciding with that. Or does all this grant news and maybe we get some more news on semiconductors start to come out? Because don't forget, we just said what? AMD reports on Tuesday. So that's what we're going to get to find out. It's been running up like crazy. So those earnings better be absolutely insane. And again, if not, then of course we get to pull back on one of these levels. But the good thing is, if you notice what it's done, it's kind of stepped this way up, comes back down, tests a previous resistance level, and bounces. It's done this multiple times on the way up. So at least it has done that on the way up. And again, they report on Tuesday, as you can see. And of course, that will affect NVIDIA and all the rest of them. Now, Amazon's another one. This one got right up into this major resistance area here. We've had highlighted for months now. You can see it's a very high volume area. And so if earnings go as expected, they've pushed all these other Mag 7 up to all-time highs, right? Except for Tesla. But all the rest of them have done it. And it may have taken time, but they did it. So now we get to see if they're going to push Amazon up, but it has a lot of resistance to get through. And this doesn't report till Thursday, so it has some days this week. And we'll see if they're going to run it up into earnings or just kind of consolidate it. I'm actually hoping for consolidation. Now, Tesla, speaking of consolidation, that's what we're looking at. Are we going to form a bottom after being so oversold right here? MACD still is not curled up yet, and that's really what you're looking for. So here you can see it's, when we look at the last gap down, it kept running down, got oversold, finally got a turn. And when it turns, it's going to be a nice move. That was 183 to 224 right there. And so that's what you got to wait on for. Remember, 5 to 11 days sometimes. But again, it's going to be a big, crazy week. And we need to see where money's going to push this. It's still the most highly traded stock out there. So, eventually the short's going to start covering. And you're going to start getting this move up, call sweeps start rolling in, and that's usually a pretty good signal. When you're looking at this, I'm trying to figure out, when we look at the hourly, you're looking at a clue here, and there you can see, the RSS kind of moving up, consolidating there. Got a bullish MACD cross right there, and that thing is so deep down. But got one of those on the hourly, and when you look at some other gap downs in the past, as we kind of pull back here, you can see similar things happen. I was actually looking for like some bullish divergence or something like that, but I don't really see anything on there at all. And so, you can see that same thing, gap down, pop up, nice pop, and then it ended up selling back down after the bullish MACD cross. So just because you get a bullish MACD cross don't mean you go into the moon. It just means you're probably going to get that pop because it is so oversold. Remember, we haven't been this oversold since it hit 103, and it wasn't this oversold in 2020 on any other pullback in the last 4 years. So again, those kind of come into play. Now, looking at something like SHOP, we have drawn these fib extensions out. We've hit them. Here's the RTH gap that's still left over from quite a long time ago. But, it's funny about this one is it keeps moving up. You can see the momentum on this thing. Just like, it keeps selling down. But it's been going on for, 3 months now? And this thing just keeps chugging along. So eventually, like I told members, I'm kind of waiting for this thing to pull back, start touching some moving averages at some point in time. But this is a high-flying stock. We all know that. And they don't report earnings, it looks like, till about 2 or 3 weeks from now, I believe. So they got some time to work their way up into that. Maybe we get some consolidation. Maybe it finally finishes up the RTH gap. But even when you pull up the volume profile, if it does even start to sell down, that trend line is going to come into play because it goes back to like 2017. And plus, you'll end up having different levels. And you see where the volume is and everything on the way down right there. But you can also see just the way it moved up. If it does get past the RTH gap, there is going to be resistance levels coming into play because this one, again, is a high flyer, but it loves to do big moves down too to touch those 50, 100, and 200 moving averages as well. So kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at SHOP. And one big thing that happened, and I'm not surprised, again, this is something we were kind of waiting to see, is a huge influx into the Chinese equity market, right? You got $12 billion US going in there. If you pull over, see when the last time this happened, it was $13.1 billion back in around June of 2015. Again, this is because they're literally starting to buy their own stocks, basically, is what the government kind of announced there. And people are going to have a problem like short selling because they're keeping that down to minimum as well, so pushing the stocks down. But you can see that's the last time it happened. And so you got a big pop on the Hang Seng Index. Again, does this look familiar right here? if it looks familiar, the reason why it looks familiar because this is the Hang Seng Index now, right? It's been selling down. There's that pop right there. So absolutely, you continue if those inflows keep happening. Coming up to that trend line, we'll see if it rejects or not. But when you look at this, the way this one trades is very simple. You pull out, again, you get these crazy pullbacks on this thing multiple times. And once it breaks that trend line, you get a nice explosive move up. But also, if we pull the moving averages up, you can see that 200 aligns right there. Obviously, your moving averages are still just pointing basically down. Everything, the momentum is still down. It's coming up against that 50. You can see multiple times where it's rejected off that. And then, of course, Bob is probably the most popular one. People love to do this ARD here. And when you look at it, you got the bullish MACD cross down there on the daily, still below the zero line, right? And what you're looking for is, man, that thing to break above that zero line. When that happens, that's when you get really, really big moves up, right? Anytime you see it, just massive moves up. That means momentum is really pushing into this thing. And I find that moving average don't even matter on this chart or whatever, but really it's the RSI and the MACD. But you can see it. When it's below the zero line, you get these little crosses. You get some small moves, but it's above the zero line. And when you pull on the weekly, you can see us trying to form that base down there. So we'll see if those inflows continue to happen. If that's the case, you will get a push up. Again, until the MACD crosses the zero line, it really just doesn't mean anything, to be honest with you, because we've seen it so many times and it just sells back down. And usually the Chinese government comes out and does something stupid again or whatever, or bans this, bans that, and everybody freaks out about it. So again, and it'll be interesting because obviously our indexes are all-time highs, keep getting pushed up, with a few stocks accounting for so much of it versus over there, everything is just beat down into the ground, right? And so it has nothing to do with fundamentals of their companies, that's for sure. When you look at them on like PE ratios, things of that nature, but it's just nobody trusts that government over there. That's the way it is in their economy. It's looking rough when you look at the real estate market and everything like that. And again, that's 70% of their people's wealth is in real estate, so not in the stock market. So we'll see how it goes. But again, it's going to be a fun week to say the least. There's going to be huge swings intraday with all this data that's coming out. It could be up or down. And when you get to all-time highs, it don't mean it can't keep pushing up. You see it keeps pushing up, right? But anytime it got there last week, what happened? It would set an all-time new high for a minute and then come back down to maybe like a previous day's level to try to draw liquidity to get those orders filled, right? And then push back up, right? So that's, you're going to see probably more of that this week. But it's just crazy that a lot of the stuff happening, like the FOMC meeting, things of this nature, are after the bell opens up, okay? And then a lot of these earnings, the big ones, are in after hours after the market. So that's another thing you get where you'll push up big time in pre-market, pushes to all-time highs again. Well, it's got to get liquidity. It's got to get people to fill these orders, and it'll shoot back down and then come back up. So we'll see. It's definitely ripe for a big, decent sell-off or a decent move up. So let me know what you think down in the bottom stuff. What do you think is going to happen this week? I see Microsoft. I think they'll beat earnings. I think their guidance is going to be fine. Apple is a total mystery, right? Because their growth has sucked. But again, they got new products, and it's Apple. AMD has been killing it, but to be killing it like that, you got to keep coming up with those crazy quarters like they did last quarter, right? Like NVIDIA has been doing. And so, again, we'll look and see what they're doing. Amazon, it's going to be all about the cloud to me and what the growth on that is, the marketing, that kind of stuff, because their e-commerce business, when I looked at it, I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken, that never brings in good margins and everything like that. We know how they dominate that, but I think this has to do with the cloud, and that's what hurt Google last time, by the way, so that'd be a thing about Google, too. But and then of course their marketing stuff, which they've been doing pretty good on. So anyway, we'll see what happens, guys. Hope you get something out of it. Please hit that like and subscribe button on your way out, and I will see you tomorrow.